Murli Notes for January 31st, 2022. The Omnipresence of Ravan. Maya and Ravan are both personifications of materialism. There is no form depicted for Maya, and Maya is defined as illusion. Often the word Maya is applied to money. The word Maya is used as a girl's name, and thus Maya is given the pronoun she in the Murlis. But it would be more accurate to use the pronoun it. Maya is not a woman. Using the pronoun she for Maya is, in my opinion, toxic because it provides support for misogyny. If a text promotes misogyny, then it's promoting conventional religion rather than spirituality. Conventional religion is based on defining people as either male or female. The religious laws of all religions and customs are based on gender bias, except for very few. Gender differentiation applies only to the human body and not to the human soul. The human soul is genderless. All other prejudices and biases, including racism, casteism, nationalism, religious prejudice, LGBT prejudice, homophobia, etc., these are all religious attitudes. So a person cannot maintain these religious attitudes and still call themselves spiritual. Spiritual means you evaluate your perceptions in terms of the spirit or soul, and religious means you evaluate your perceptions in terms of the body. The question of behavior and behavior modification is a religious or cultural matter. Religious approaches are defined by Baba as body conscious. However, most BKs do not distinguish between body consciousness and soul consciousness when it comes to behavior modification, social customs, and the like. So definitions of right and wrong need to be determined by the laws of karma rather than religious or cultural precepts. We can conclude that a time must come when BKs do make such distinctions. Historically, Gyan and the ways of BKs were changed every so often by Brahma Baba and the BK community. It is important for the understanding and interpretation of the practice and study of Raj Yoga to remain fluid because continuous change is needed in order to complete the shift from bhakti to Gyan in the context of the iron-aged, predominantly Hindu society. Shrimat includes the mantra, forget your body, forget your bodily relations, forget your bodily religions, and remember one alone. So pure spirituality is required in order to follow the Shrimat. If you're still in the context of conventional religion and culture, or your culture, then you cannot apply this mantra. Ravan. According to Bhakti, Ravan is a man, a deity, a Brahmin, and a staunch devotee of Shiva. He is given a lineage, ancestors, a wife, children, etc., etc. So he is considered as a specific individual, unlike Maya. The 10 heads refer to the 10 vices: greed, anger, lust, attachment, ego, fear, laziness, slander, hatred, jealousy. Baba divided them into 5 male and 5 female heads. The first 5 being male due to being overt, and the second 5 being female due to being covert. This does not mean that females are covert in comparison with males, but rather it means that both males and females have both overt and covert vices. Your gender does not predispose you to particular vices. However, your biology and prevailing social attitudes and conditioning are powerful influences. Ravan is shown with many arms, which hold specific symbolic ornaments. In one hand, Ravan holds the 5 elements of matter, each one is personified, and each one is held by a metal collar and chain. This is symbolic of the Vedic philosophy of omnipresence and Hatha Yoga practices for achieving control over the body and attaining siddhis for controlling matter, including walking on water, walking through fire, levitation, etc. Ravan also holds military weapons, which refer to military and political conquest by the use of force. He has a veena, a musical instrument, which he plays with his intestines as a form of worship of God. And this symbolizes that the arts are cultivated for stimulating and satisfying sensual pleasure. And this also refers to institutionalized manipulation of people through attraction to physical beauty and especially the female form. He holds the scriptures, in particular the Vedas and Shastras, which define God as omnipresent, the soul as immune to karma, and descriptions of different varieties of rituals and social customs, including institutionalized gender bias. They also show that matter and spirit are one continuous thing. Ravan also holds a rosary, which indicates that these concepts influence the vast majority of people. Ravan's definition as a Brahmin and staunch devotee of Shiva means that he cannot actually be a deity of the Golden and Silver Ages, nor could he be the type of deity like a Shiv Shakti, but it indicates that he must personify a highly revered group of devotees who are religious authorities. It also indicates that the figure of Ravan is a personification of the reverence towards science and scientists of the establishment. That indicates that Hindu religious authorities and the authorities of conventional physics, including medicine and other recognized material sciences, are honored and universally believed in as if they were God. God. The word Ishwar is given to denote God, but it is unspecific. The word Bhagwan is also used to denote God. So Bhagwan means the giver of fortune, and Ishwar is the desired one, the favorite one. There are no figures that specifically represent Ishwar or Bhagwan. It is Ishwar and Bhagwan that are said to be omnipresent, and then this is extended to apply to Krishna, Radhe, and Ram among some believers. However, this cannot be substantiated because omnipresent means undifferentiated. A person means an actual soul who exists permanently and who incarnates to play a role. A personification means a force which influences souls, matter, and the ambient energy, but which is not a soul. Matter itself is also personified. The elements of matter, the earth, the sun, the moon, the ocean of water, the wind, nirvana, but they were not able to personify space or ether, probably because it is too subtle for human perception. And this gave rise to the widespread use of the aphorism, nature abhors a vacuum, which is attributed to Aristotle. And this further indicates that the scriptures glorify materialist thinking. So nature means the 5 elements, and then beyond matter, there is the 6th element of light. The force of negativity is real and tangible. It could be described as the accumulation of negative karma in humanity in general, combined with overall loss of spiritual power. And spiritual power can be described as a force that holds everything together in harmony. So Ravan can be a personification for the force of negativity. The forehead. Why is the forehead said to be pure? Most likely because it is not an erogenous zone. It does not produce any form of sexual arousal. Even in terms of beauty, the forehead does not figure as something that could attract physically. All other parts of the body have the potential for physical attraction. Renunciation. What is the meaning of renunciation? What is the relationship between vairagya and tyag, which are generally translated as disinterest, and renunciation? Tyag and sannyas, both meaning renunciation, are different. So think about that. There is the phrase, you cannot take back something that was given. So once something is donated, it cannot be taken back because it will have been transformed into something else. For example, money is transformed into a building. Donating a vice means to recognize that it is not your wish to act on the basis of that vice. If you act against your will, it means you are weak. You cannot both respect yourself and perform a weak action simultaneously. So this mutual exclusivity would be too obvious and could not get past the gateway of your conscience. So there is psychological power in classifying a vice as something that you can donate, insofar as reclaiming a donated vice robs you of your self-respect. Now, if you know this, you will not take it back. Your self-respect has greater power over your soul than your desire to get pulled by an attraction that you have already publicly stated is not your identity. And even to hide this inconsistency from others is ineffective, because you cannot hide it from yourself, you cannot hide it from God, or from the laws of karma. So this argument is used by Baba to force a person's conscience to remain awake and alert and do its job. And it also has the power to neutralize indoctrination and Pavlovian type of training that's given to children through toxic parenting, toxic education regarding behavior, and toxic religious training. Obviously, not all parenting, education, and religious training is toxic, but a lot of it is. Just because Ravan is omnipresent does not mean that Ravan is invisible or intangible. By definition, Ravan means sense perception, and that is tangible. It can only prevail over an individual if that individual is spiritually weak, with compromised powers of perception and a compromised conscience. When your soul is spiritually empowered with yoga power, then you can discern Ravan or Maya clearly. Otherwise, you remain deceived due to not being able to perceive it. And this is why yoga is the first subject. Gyan is second. However, Gyan is the basis of yoga, therefore much attention needs to be paid to Gyan. Gyan changes your processes of reasoning and thereby destroys the tendency to faulty logic which arise due to toxic parenting, education, and religious training based in materialistic assumptions and social prejudices. Gyan and yoga must be practiced together. Deep churning of Gyan causes the intellectual processes to get refined and to cease to be based on sense perception. Sense perception is deceptive because objects of sense perception are classified in terms of attraction and repulsion. Deep churning of Gyan makes you independent of attraction and repulsion. You deal only with what is, rather than what should or should not be. Om Shanti.